Welcome back to Julie's Village. I'm glad you're here. In this episode, I'm going to continue with the next eligibility category under which a student can qualify for special education services under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This category is traumatic brain injury, which is often abbreviated TBI. I'm going to take my information once again from the Idaho Special Education Manual. And while criteria can vary from state to state, overall they're pretty similar. So under this category, what the team would be considering to determine if a student is eligible is, was there an injury that caused from an external physical force that caused this brain injury? And then the next piece that they're looking for was there a total or partial functional disability caused by this injury, and or was there any kind of psychosocial impairment? There's lots of areas, subcategories that can be indicators that something is significant is going on, that there is a total or partial impairment. The team would be looking at cognitive skills, language, memory, attention, reasoning, abstract thinking, judgment, problem solving, sensory, perceptual, and motor abilities, psychosocial behavior, physical functions, information processing, and speech. These are all areas that the team is going to be looking at to see are there any areas of concern that we're seeing. There are a couple of things that are closely related to traumatic brain injury but wouldn't be serviced under this category. Other categories would be considered. And those are congenital brain injuries, so any brain injuries that happened before a child was born, or if there were any kind of brain trauma that happened in birth. And then there also, you wouldn't consider it a traumatic brain injury if it is a degenerative injury, so it is continuing to get worse over time. But if things are if there was a brain injury and it impacted function and it is pretty much stabilized at a certain point, that is going to indicate to the team that traumatic brain injury is the category to consider for that student. So right along with that, there needs to be documentation of that brain injury. So any kind of physician's report, if they most likely there was seeking of some kind of medical attention and a diagnosis was made at that point. So that documentation brought to the school team helps them to know what is going on and the impact. So right along with that, then the team is going to assess, okay, so here's the global general impact that maybe was seen at the time of injury. Now we're looking at how is that impacting their day to day. And that is what the team is going to look for as they complete their assessments. So they're going to be probably completing assessments in multiple areas, including that cognitive and academic. They're probably also going to be looking at the impact on speech and language, and then those cognitive skills and those physical functioning skills. So you may even need a physical therapist and an occupational therapist to be included on this team so that they can look at how this injury is impacting those skills. And just a side note, some of those shorter term that it's a mild head injury, you're not, physicians aren't anticipating a long-term impact. A student could qualify for a short-term 504 to provide appropriate accommodations if you are seeing an adverse impact. So for example, if your child gets a mild concussion playing sports, and they are able to continue with school, but they're just needing some accommodations during this time while they're healing. A team could be assembled to do a 504 plan to just make sure that those accommodations are provided during that recovery time. But if it's a longer term issue, or if it is showing that it's been longer term and those needs are still there, then the team would say, hey, we're seeing this adverse impact and we need to consider these special education services. So that adverse impact, again, if all they need is some accommodations and then they can be successful throughout their school day, that's all that's required, then a 504 plan would be considered here as well, but it would just be a longer term 504 plan. A 504 plan doesn't have a specific term or amount of time that it can be in operation. It does need to be the team does need to look at it every year just to make sure that it's still in line with what a student needs, but it can be less than that as well. Whereas an IEP, an individualized education program, is going to be more long term. So again, the team looking at all of these things, if they see that adverse impact and they're going to consider what accommodations are needed. If all of that is put into place and they say that is not going to be, you as a team see, that's not enough to really support their needs, they do need some specially designed instruction, that is when a child would qualify under this category. So if there is that documentation of a traumatic brain injury, the team has done an evaluation to see what the impact is on those school needed skills, functional skills. And they can see that, yeah, there is an impact. It is an adverse impact. And we see that there is a need for specially designed instruction. Then the team would say, yes, the child does qualify for special education services under TBI or traumatic brain injury. If you have any more input on traumatic brain injury, any thoughts or experiences, any strategies, or any ideas that you would like to share, I invite you to leave that in the comments. If you have any questions about this eligibility category, I invite you to leave those in the comments as well. In addition, if you have questions or suggestions for future topics or people that you would like to see on this channel, I invite you to leave that in the comments as well. If this information is helpful to you, I invite you to share, like, subscribe. That just helps make this information more accessible to others who might need it. Thank you so much.